Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen divorces me and marries her boss. Huge mistake. After that, am I the jerk for telling my friend his physical standards are why he's single? And after that, my sister-in-law started crying when she found out how much money I make. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to use expired coupons. We'll see what the manager has to say about that, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen divorces me and marries her boss. Huge mistake. I, 47, got divorced from my first wife when I was 29. We had 2 kids and my folks loved them more than anything. My ex-wife wasn't happy with the lifestyle that I could provide. I wasn't making a lot of money, but we weren't in debt or anything. We had good cars, and we had just put a down payment on our first home that we could own. Her boss was rich. He was 47, and he could provide luxuries that were out of my reach. She left me for him. I still had to pay child support, but I guess I was lucky that I didn't pay spousal support. I had to work, and I couldn't get custody. I got visitation, and my ex made it hard. The kids were young, and she manipulated them. If I had planned to take them to a local resort for our summer vacation, she would take them to Disneyland the week before. I would always come up short. Eventually, the kids refused to spend time with me. It went to court, and I basically had to accept that I couldn't force them to see me or my parents. I met my second wife, who's 33, at the dog park when I was 37 and she was 24. She had a son who was about the age my son was the last time my parents got to see him. My parents accepted him right away. He loves them. My wife is like a daughter to them. It is what I always wanted for a life. We have 2 more kids now who are 8 and 5. My stepson is about to graduate next year. So a few years ago, my dad sold his company. He's an engineer and he had some patents that ended up being worth a fair bit of money. He paid off my house. He also made educational funds for my 3 kids. He figured the older ones were done with school and hadn't bothered to visit them in years, so they didn't need anything from him. Turns out that was wrong. My ex-wife married a scam artist. He was rich, but he wasn't rich enough for the lifestyle she wanted, so he stole from his clients, and then he went to jail. My oldest kids are in a lot of debt. My ex is living with her parents. She recently tried to tell me that my parents needed to be fair with all their grandkids. I told her that it was their money to spend on the people they loved and who loved them back. She said that we were punishing her kids for her mistakes. I said that both of our kids were adults and hadn't made any effort to see me or my parents in over a decade. She said I'm being a jerk for not convincing my parents to help her kids. It feels like there's a lot missing from this story. You really make yourself out to be a martyr, OP, but fathers don't just get visitation only for no reason, and kids don't just go no contact for a decade because you couldn't afford Disneyland. You then married someone 13 years younger than yourself, which in this context just feels off. So, I don't know, dude. It sounds like either you and your family need to start treating your kids better, or you've lost them forever. Someone needs to be the adult here, but it seems like none of you are willing. OP. Okay, so I went through the comments and yours stuck out. I'll do my best to be honest here. I was not a perfect father. I don't think that anyone ever has been. I made mistakes, but I did try my absolute best. The best example I can give is that I took all of my time off when the kids weren't in school. I tried to make sure that we had quality time together. I didn't see them much when I was working. Their mom did the heavy lifting when it came to parenting. I gave each of my kids the full amount that I had saved for them for college. Their stepdad bought them each a car. I cannot afford to compete with that. Well, I can now, but I couldn't back then. The money I sent them was enough to cover 1.5 years of in-state tuition. The reason I use Disneyland as an example is because it seemed to me like once she found out my vacation time and plans, she then took the kids for a very expensive vacation to a place I would have had trouble affording. When I took them the following week, they were all vacationed out and just relaxed. I had planned for us to enjoy some time outdoors. I was disappointed, but I let them stay in the hotel and just play video games and read. I guess it was a boring vacation because they told me that they didn't want to go there again. They had enjoyed it there before. My wife was 24 when we met and had a kid. She wasn't a teenager or anything, and we got pregnant because we wanted to. I loved having a child in my life again, and we wanted more kids. My wife was willing to accept the hours that I work And because I have more experience now and seniority, I make more money than I did during my first marriage. You keep mentioning how much money you make, but I just don't see how that factors into your story in any way. Kids grow up with poor fathers all the time and don't go no contact with them for a decade over it. Having less money than their mother doesn't mean that you only get visitation. I'm sure there were times where you worked to be a good father, but I guarantee you that if we asked your kids, they would be able to shed some light on what really happened in their childhood to have it all end up like this. And my earlier point was that it was your job and will always be your job to maintain contact with your kids, unless they explicitly don't want it, in which case you did something very bad. Even though they're older now, it's still your job to do anything you can to maintain a relationship with them if they want it. Sometimes kids pull back when they feel abandoned to see if that parent will fight for them. Kids need to know that their parents will fight for them. If you didn't fight for them, you just let them go no contact, then their worst fears are realized and you become an absolute deadbeat, in which case your question should be, I was a deadbeat father to 2 kids I had with my ex, and now my parents won't help financially support them, even though we could, and yet we're supporting the 2 kids I had with my new young wife. Are we the jerks? To be clear, I'm not calling you a jerk because, like I said, we just clearly don't know the whole story. Not the jerk, but I'm always suspicious when a guy says the woman manipulated the kids. Kids don't stop talking to you because you don't buy them stuff and take them to expensive places, especially all the way into their adulthood. It's usually because you were a deadbeat and broke promises and weren't around a lot for them to create a bond. This is rarely the mother's fault, as most will happily want a break for a few days. Think you need to find the real reasons they don't talk to you. Well, what do you think? Are OP and his parents the jerks or not? Please let us know. If I had grandkids that went 10 years without wanting anything to do with me, you can bet your backside I wouldn't be leaving them a darn thing. Am I the jerk for telling my friend his physical standards are why he's single? I, 22 male, have a friend who's also 22 male who has never even had a girlfriend or a romantic experience. Now, let me say that I actually really like him as a person, and I think he has positive qualities. He has a solid job making $180,000 a year with a company car as a surgical device sales rep at 22. He's generally affable and easy to talk to. If his standards were just educated and good person, I would totally support it, as I think that's reasonable. However, physically, and I know I'm being brutal here, he is not a catch. He already has a significantly receded hairline. His face is quite frankly below average. He's of below average height and he's not in amazing shape. I believe he has a distorted view because his parents constantly told him he was very handsome and could get any girl. As a result, he's exclusively interested in women who are not just successful, but also are exceptionally gorgeous. A woman who said she had just graduated from an Ivy League and was a tech sales rep was flirting with him at the bar. Though she was nice and clearly quite intelligent, and once again, I know that I'm being brutal here, she was not very attractive either. When she asked for his number, he politely declined. I asked him what was wrong, and he said, I mean, she seems like a nice person, but she's definitely not in my league. I bit my tongue. The next week, he came to me upset and told me that a woman that he had a cooking class with rejected him. Suspecting the reason why, I asked him to show me a picture of her from her social media. Sure enough, she was insanely attractive and in marketing at a big company. I just tried to sympathize. Later, I thought long and hard about it. On the one hand, I didn't want to be mean, but on the other, this has been occurring since freshman year of high school. He's now the last person in the friend group to be single and completely missed out on dating in high school and college. Say what you will, but I think that romance is important for the vast majority of people, and I also think physical attraction is a foundational aspect of relationships. He could easily be in a relationship if he got over his obsession with beauty. So after rehearsing what I wanted to say, I decided to sit him down and I told him, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I think you should lower your physical standards. You would have way more options. He protested and said that his standards were reasonable because he's a good-looking guy. I said, I hate to say it, but your approach of only going after beautiful and successful women has not worked out. Feel free to take your shot, but I think you should also consider women that are nice and smart but less physically attractive. I recommended he go to therapy about this. He got angry and has been giving me the cold shoulder ever since. 8 days. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. It sounds like you approached this mindfully and with good intentions. Unfortunately, a guy like this doesn't sound open to reflection about himself. These opinions tend to solidify with time, resulting in a "they're the ones with the problem" mindset. He will either learn in time or he won't. While clearly not the jerk, I also think that conversation was unnecessary and obviously not going to pan out well. For it not even to occur to this dude that the reason he routinely turns down women because he isn't interested in them could possibly be the reason he's being rejected because they're not interested in him is ridiculous. But ultimately, it only affects him, and all OP did was basically sit him down and tell him he thinks he's not good looking. Which, like, dude, how did you think that was gonna go? If he kept coming to me complaining about why did she reject me, I'd be like, I don't know, why do you reject people who ask you out? And if he says some garbage about her being a jerk, just be like, whatever dude, she's allowed to not like you and that doesn't make her a jerk. Just like you're allowed to not date people you don't want to and it doesn't make you a jerk. From a woman's perspective, please let him be. We don't want someone going out with us because they feel like the people they're really attracted to won't want to date them. We don't want to be settled for. Let him continue to spin his wheels and make his choices. Don't encourage him to subject women to the inevitable unpleasantness and degradation of going out with a man who would rather be with someone else, just so he can have experiences with someone because it's about time. He's 22. You keep saying 8 years like it's insane. Lots of people don't experience real dating until later in life, especially in the last 5 years or so. He has plenty of time for his own lived experience of unsuccessful attempts at dating to give him that reality check. He doesn't need you to do it. Not the jerk. Honestly, you've risked looking like the bad guy to genuinely help your friend because you want him to be happy and you spent time and energy thinking how to do that in a way that wouldn't hurt his feelings. You didn't call him unattractive or say they were out of his league. You just said it wasn't working out and he should maybe try something new. Not the jerk, but neither is your friend. He's just still oblivious to how dating works. I'm a dating coach and I can tell you without a doubt that your friend is most likely a 7 going after other 7s. The problem is, he needs to be going after 4s and 5s if he wants to score. The 7s he's going after will never give him a chance because they only accept the 9s and 10s. As a solid 9 myself, 6'3", blonde hair, blue eyes, gym rat, I can't tell you how many women I've been with who would show me pictures of guys that orbited them and we'd laugh at them together. She'd tell me how funny it was that these dudes thought they had a chance with her and I'd be thinking in my head, well, he's about a 7 just like you. But you never actually tell her this stuff. They're so conceited that they will refuse to believe it and will totally flip out on you. It's just the current imbalance in the dating game, but don't get mad about it. Learn to play the game. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his friend? Please let us know. As a 10 myself, I ask myself every day why I'm with a 1 like Reddit boy. My sister started crying when she found out how much money I make. Tonight, my fiance, 26 male, and I, 26 female, were at dinner with his family. He has a younger brother, 18 male, and an older sister, 29 female, who I will refer to as my sister-in-law just because it's simple. I've been working as a product manager at a big tech company since I got out of college 5 years ago. My salary has steadily climbed in the last couple of years, so now I'm making a very large amount. However, I am a big proponent of salary transparency, especially as a woman in a male-dominated field. I've helped multiple people who are being underpaid negotiate higher salaries after sharing my salary history. I've also helped many younger college students who are looking to go into the industry by sharing my salary. So this evening, we were discussing the tech industry and how it's become such a popular field to go into. Both me and my fiance work in tech, so we were offering our input from our own roles. My fiance's little brother is planning on studying computer science in college, so he asked me, rather abruptly, how much I make as a PM. Since I believe in salary transparency, I went ahead and just said, well, after I got promoted to being a senior product manager a few months ago, my current salary is about $300,000 a year. After I said that, my fiance's brother said, holy cow, really loudly, and then congratulated me and called me impressive. I thanked him and told him that I'd be happy to help him when he starts looking for internships and jobs in college. However, then all of a sudden, my sister-in-law starts sniffling, and I look at her and she's wiping tears from her face. My future mother-in-law starts to comfort her and is whispering something, and the whole table goes silent. I immediately apologize and ask what was wrong, and she just said, it's just hard seeing people make that much money when I'm making $15 an hour working my butt off 50 hours a week. She also said after that, some people really do get everything, huh? and then glared at me and kept crying. Then she excused herself to the bathroom and my mother-in-law followed. Here's my sister-in-law's situation. She's currently a single mom and is pregnant with her second son. She's working a minimum wage job to support her kid. I'm very empathetic to her situation, and my fiance and I have extended a helping hand multiple times, such as babysitting, buying her kid toys or other gifts or necessities, sending money and supplies, etc. Since the incident, she hasn't spoken to me. She actually ended up just walking out from dinner with my future mother-in-law and leaving the rest of us at the restaurant. My mother-in-law did text and told me that I acted insensitively and should give sister-in-law a sincere apology. My fiance is on my side and believes his sister was the one who acted rudely. See, I would apologize, but I think she owes me an apology too. Am I the jerk here? No jerks here, except for mother-in-law. You shared and, let's be honest, you make a ridiculous amount for 5 years of work experience. But you're right to support wage transparency. It was your choice to work in this field, and I'm sure you've earned the promotions, etc. But it must be disheartening for her to know that she won't earn that there'll always be a difference between her and her siblings' families, and that she won't be able to give her kids a lot. Maybe not even the basics, with how it stands now. So she's no jerk either for how she reacted or felt. The only jerk move here is your mother-in-law accusing you of willful insensitivity, while it clearly wasn't. Have a conversation with your sister-in-law. Not the jerk at all. Your sister-in-law is completely the jerk for making the entire night about her and victimizing herself over something that has nothing at all to do with her. You worked hard in life to get to where you are, and you earn what you make. She chose to have kids before she had a stable career and marriage. She cannot possibly expect everyone around her to coddle her for that. Not to mention, you were literally asked, and being honest about what you earn is something you're passionate about. Unbelievable your mother-in-law is babying her like that. It's appalling that a grown woman would make a scene over what is essentially jealousy and feeling sorry for herself. Good on your fiance for being on your side. Everyone sucks here. Salary transparency is for peers, employees, and applicants freely disclosing compensation in the workplace. Telling everyone who asks how much you earn at the dinner table during family functions is weird. Brother-in-law is 18 and not even studying computer science yet. You were definitely bragging and impressed him. Good for you, but bad manners nonetheless. Sister-in-law needs to get a grip. Mother-in-law should encourage sister-in-law to get a grip. And in order to make it easier for them, you should say you're sorry for unintentionally hurting sister-in-law's feelings. Practice not sounding smug so you don't make it worse. You're the jerk. Here's the thing. Salary transparency is great for women because women traditionally lack the confidence to request the promotions and higher salaries that their male counterparts request. So I applaud your transparency. However, be mindful of your audience. Salary transparency is appropriate when you're talking with industry or potential industry or students, etc. It's inappropriate in front of others, especially family. Causes problems of jealousy, insecurity, judgment, etc. This time your sister-in-law cried. The next person will expect you to pay for them. The person after that will befriend you for your money or steal from you, etc. You should have told little bro that you would be happy to give him career counseling away from the table and then shared your salary in private. If you really want to help women, apologize to your sister-in-law and ask if there's any way that you could support her to change jobs. Read through her resume, point her towards some study, get her an entry-level position with your company, etc. Whatever she needs. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or sister-in-law? Please let us know. Never tell anyone how much money you make, especially people you're related to. Am I the jerk for requesting that my wife cleans up after herself? I, 28 male, married my wife, 23 female, who we'll call Danny, about a year ago, and we were very lucky to get pregnant soon after. Danny is in her 3rd trimester now and on pregnancy leave. Once we got the good news, I started working extra hours in order to save more money for when the baby gets here. This means that I have to get up extra early every morning to get to work. I try to be out the door by 6 a.m. I get home a little later and I'm usually pretty beat, but I still contribute to the house by doing dishes, cleaning up after the cat, because she can't, that kind of stuff. This new routine has been hard on both of us, but we've made it work, and so far everything has been fine. That is, until the other day, when I woke up to Danny crying. We only have one bathroom, which is downstairs, and lately Danny has been having a little more trouble going up and down the stairs. This usually went fine, but this time she didn't make it. So when I came downstairs, I found her, in tears, standing in her own mess. She was clearly very embarrassed, and even more so that I had caught her. I immediately felt bad for her. I tried to comfort her and told her that it's all good. It can happen to anyone. Just clean it up and we'll go back to bed. She asked me if I could help her, but I told her that made me uncomfortable. I would never expect anyone else to clean up after my mess. To be honest, it has happened before when I had a couple too many beers, but I always clean up after myself, and I would feel weird asking Danny to do it for me in that situation. She got really mad and called me insensitive for making her clean up after herself after an already embarrassing enough situation. I proposed a compromise. She would clean up the mess, and I would get her clean PJs, since I had just done laundry anyway. She asked me if this is what it was going to be like if the baby made a mess, and I told her I would be perfectly okay to clean up after the baby since it can't clean up after itself. I then told her I didn't have time to stand there arguing with her all night when I had to get up in like 3 hours to go to work and provide for us. So I walked upstairs, grabbed her PJs for her, and went back to bed. The next morning when I got downstairs, I found her on the couch. She told me that she barely slept and felt horrible about the night before. She called me a jerk and said that by not helping her, I only embarrassed her more. She then told me she would be staying with her mom until I got my crap together. It's been half a day now, and she's not responding to my texts. I talked about it with a few coworkers, and I'm getting mixed responses, but I just want to make sure. Am I the jerk? Edit 1. So after about 5 hours, most of y'all seem to agree that I am the jerk. Danny's coming home tonight to pick up some stuff, so I hope we'll have a moment to talk it out then. I'll take your guys' verdict into account going into the conversation. I did see some people who would see my side of the story, so I do hope she'll take that into account too. We'll update soon. Edit 2. Keeping it brief because of word limit, we'll post full update after judgment. Edit 2. Danny and her mom came back to pick up some stuff last night. Danny and I talked. She told me her side, I told her my side. In the end, we both ended up apologizing and agreed we were going to work on it. She's going to be staying with her mom until we find a comfortable way for Danny to sleep downstairs at my place. Honestly, dude, you're the jerk. Man up and help out the woman who is actively carrying your child. You going to the bathroom on yourself when you were drunk is not even remotely related to your pregnant wife struggling to move fast enough to get to where she needs to go. If it happens again, help her out. For now, I just apologize and acknowledge her feelings. I remember this one time when my husband and I were dating and didn't live together. I got food poisoning and woke up throwing up. I called him frantic because I was being sick everywhere and couldn't stop and was scared. He drove over in the middle of the night, cleaned up my bed while I cleaned myself, packaged me and a toddler up, and bundled us up and brought us to his parents' house so I wouldn't be sick alone. FYI, OP, my husband has a squeamish stomach and is ill at the sight, sound, and thought of others being sick. He still totally cleaned up after me alone, when it wasn't his house, when I wasn't his wife, when I wasn't pregnant, just because he loved me and I needed help. Explain your excuse to me again. You're the jerk. She's in her 3rd trimester. You should have helped. You also need to figure something out so she doesn't have to go up and down stairs in the middle of the night, but she may have figured that out for herself by moving to her mother's. You're the jerk. Just because she is capable of cleaning up after herself doesn't mean she has to and that you couldn't have helped. Now, I've never been in this particular situation, but there have been plenty of times where my partner and I will clean up after each other in situations because we both have empathy and feel bad for each other. Yes, we could make them do it themselves because they got 2 feet and a heartbeat, but there is a sense of love and compassion there. It's in sickness and in health, dude. If you can't do that, maybe she's right to question her status raising a kid with you. Not the jerk. If she's already so entitled to think you have to clean up her mess like this, just wait until she has the baby. Can you imagine if the roles were flipped? I went to the bathroom in the living room, and my wife refuses to clean it up for me. What would all these idiots be saying then? Oh, but this is different because she's pregnant. Yeah, boo-hoo, cry me a river. 100 years ago, pregnant women were still able to actually, be adults and get things done. Why is it different now? Oh yeah, entitlement is now through the roof. Seriously, man, leave her now and find someone who can act like an actual adult. She's testing you right now to see how low you're willing to stoop for her. Guarantee you, if you had done it for her, she'd be bragging to her friends and family about how much of a pushover you are, and they'd all be laughing at you. Don't be like the pushovers in these comments. These are the same guys whose wives are staying the night at Tyrone's place, and these dudes are okay with it because they're so sad and weak. I got my stepsister and her family banned from Christmas. I have a daughter, Elena, who's 6, and my stepsister, Jess, has a daughter, Hattie, who's 5. Me, my husband, Jess, and her husband, Paul, are all staying at our parents' house over the Christmas period. For context, Paul arrived a day after the rest of us, very late at night because he does shift work and worked late before driving to our parents. The next morning, the girls were playing in Alina's room at about 10 a.m. The adults were all downstairs except Paul because he was sleeping and my stepdad was out. Suddenly, we heard Paul shouting. This is not too unusual, if unpleasant, but this episode sounded particularly bad, so we got up. Before we can even get to the stairs, my daughter runs down crying, saying Paul had shouted at her for waking him up. My husband was livid and went upstairs to deal with Paul while I calmed my daughter down. I knew it would be absolutely impossible for us to be around Paul after what had happened, so we would probably be leaving. Jess said that was ridiculous. Paul probably got annoyed and was tired, and he'd apologize and everything would be fine. I said no, it would not be fine. Nobody shouts at my kid and remains on speaking terms with me or around my kid. Paul should know better than to be acting like that with other people's kids. When my stepdad came back, we told him what happened and that we would be leaving because we refused to subject Alina to being around Paul after what he had done, and we don't trust him to not overstep his boundaries like that again. My stepdad agreed, but said that it was unfair we should have to leave after Paul was the problem. He called Paul and Jess down and said that they had to go, weren't welcome on Christmas or until after we had gone home. Paul tried to defend himself, saying the kids should have been more quiet, but when my husband got annoyed, Paul half-heartedly apologized. I didn't believe a word of his apology. My stepdad reiterated that Jess was welcome to stay without Paul, but Paul had to be gone within the hour. Jess started crying and said it was unfair and that my stepdad was choosing me over her and was a horrible father. She went off on a rant, so I left the room with Alina, and the next I saw was her and Paul going upstairs to pack. They left without a goodbye. Since they've been gone, every few hours I've gotten a text from Jess saying how I've ruined her Christmas and her relationship with her dad over 30 seconds of bad judgment. I don't think I created this situation because it was my stepdad's decision to throw them out. I offered to leave. I also think Paul made this bed that Jess is lying in. All he had to do was come downstairs and ask us to quiet the kids, or pop his head into the room and ask politely. Nevertheless, I do feel bad that Jess is stuck in the middle and that Hattie won't see her grandparents on Christmas because of this. Did I overreact? Would Paul apologizing have been enough? Edit. Regarding the kids being unsupervised, I was upstairs with them and we were all going down to do some baking. The girls asked for 10 more minutes to continue playing before coming down, so I went down to get all the stuff ready in the kitchen. They weren't on their own for hours on end. They were playing with a large dollhouse in Alina's room, hence why they were not playing downstairs to start with. Not the jerk. A 5-year-old and a 6-year-old are going to make noise playing together. It was 10 a.m., not 1 a.m., so I fail to see why anyone should have gotten angry about it. I'm stuck on the part where you say Paul shouting is unpleasant but not unusual. That's an issue. If your brother-in-law is shouting at his kid enough for it to be a normal thing, there's something wrong there. Good for you for standing up for your kid and your family. Paul has absolutely no business shouting at your daughter for playing. She's 6. You didn't demand they get kicked out. You told your family that as a result of your brother-in-law's inappropriate behavior, you would leave, so your daughter wasn't subjected to it anymore. Your stepdad obviously agrees that Paul was out of line, otherwise he wouldn't have asked you to stay and Paul to leave. I have a feeling this shouting thing happens often, otherwise I don't see why your stepdad would have asked Paul to leave. Everyone sucks here. Paul is a jerk for shouting rather than using his words like an adult. You're a jerk for immediately going nuclear and dramatically announcing you're leaving without so much as a discussion. Your stepdad is a jerk for not even trying to mediate and jumping straight to kicking your stepsister's family out. You all need to learn to communicate more effectively. Am I the jerk for prioritizing my dog over my mom's stepkid? I, 32 female, have a 12-year-old American bully named Rory. Because of her age, she had a lot of health issues. Right now, she needs to have surgery. It's going to be around $6,000 plus about $3,000 to $4,000 in meds, followed by 6 months in therapy. That's going to be $10,000 to $12,000. That brings the total to $22,000 at the most. I can easily afford it because I have a good job in IT. I don't have any debt to pay, I'm child-free, and I budget myself very well. My mom was what you can call a weekend parent. She never really mothered me. She will often let me fend for myself. Because of that, my childhood was practically non-existent. My dad passed when I was 2, and my grandparents lived far away, so I was by myself 99% of the time. I went low contact with her when I started college. Last year, she got married to Alex, who has a 5-year-old son, David, from a previous relationship. I wasn't aware of any of this. I didn't know she was dating, and I didn't know she got married. Mom called me last night because David has some health issues and needs medical care that's too expensive for their budget. That's when I found out about Alex. Apparently, my mom didn't tell me anything because if I knew about Alex, she would have been forced to invite me to the wedding, which she didn't want to do because Alex doesn't know I exist. Basically, she wants me to send her $15,000 to pay for David's treatment or whatever he needs. I said no. I'm doing well financially, but I don't have that kind of money, and I'm not paying for a random kid. I told Mom as nice as I could that I can't help her because 1, I don't want to, and 2, I don't have the money. She ended the call. She found out about my Rory surgery from my cousin, and this morning I woke up to a bunch of voicemails and texts calling me all possible names because I chose my dog over her stepkid. I texted back this: "Yes, that dog means the world to me and I will do anything I can for her. David is nothing to me. You got married without telling me because you don't want your hubby to know I exist. Perfect. If I don't exist in your little perfect life, then why are you asking me for money? Your stepkid isn't my responsibility. I wouldn't give you $15,000 even if I had it, because you're not important enough to me to spare that kind of money. You haven't called me in, what, 3 years? 4? And now you want money from me? Nah." Safe to say, my family is now calling me a monster because I would rather help a dog than a kid. My decision is final, but I'm curious if I'm the jerk. Update: regarding Rory's surgery, it's nothing life-threatening. She has nerve damage, so her back legs are almost completely numb. The surgery is going to help her walk properly. She isn't going to be in pain because the nerves are almost completely gone. I wouldn't go through with it if I knew she would be in pain after. 2. I talked with my cousin and she gave me Alex's full name, so I found him on Facebook. I messaged him and I told him everything. I sent him more than enough proof that I am who I said I was. I told him to tell my mom that she and the rest of the family can go forget themselves. 3. I blocked all my family and I'm not planning on ever having contact with them again. Rory has her last checkup today and she's scheduled for surgery in 2 days, so we're going to do all of her favorite activities before she has the surgery. I've taken time off of work and I'm going to work from home until she recovers completely. Thank you for all of the support and good wishes for her.
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.